Russian army commanders are facing mounting criticism over the deaths of 63 soldiers killed in one of the deadliest strikes of the war in Ukraine. Media commentators who back the invasion say senior officers have failed to learn lessons from previous incidents. The Kremlin took the unusual step of confirming the deaths in the strike by Ukrainian missiles on New Year's Eve.
Russian crowds gather in sombre ceremony in the city of Samara to mourn soldiers killed in Ukraine. People who lived here are among those who died in a New Year's Eve bombing in Makiivka. The Kremlin claims 63 soldiers were killed, but Ukraine and critics in Russia put the death toll in the hundreds.
We gathered to honor the memory of all dead soldiers of the special military operation. We gathered because it's hard for everyone. When it's hard, we should be together.
Huge piles of rubble are all that remains from the bombing. Now, Russian nationalists and some lawmakers are demanding punishment for commanders they say ignored dangers. Some reports claim soldiers were located next to a munitions depot which exploded in the strike. Others say people had been able to use their Russian mobile phones, giving away their location to Ukrainian forces. The strike has not slowed Russia's own shelling of Ukraine, its defence ministry claiming responsibility for fresh attacks in the Donetsk region. One of them destroyed this ice rink, which locals say was operating as a humanitarian warehouse.
As a result of 3 hits, an ice rink in the center of town was damaged, as well as parts of the residential and industrial sector.
Ukrainian authorities report that 1 person was killed and another injured in the strikes, and 20 residential buildings were destroyed.
DW correspondent Roman Goncharenko joins me now from Kyiv. Roman, what more can you tell us about these Russian attacks in the Donetsk region today?
Well, so far we have contradictory reports from the Ukrainian and the Russian side. The Ukrainian side saying that mostly that skating rink or ice rink was damaged and 1 person was killed, and not making any details on other objects that were also hit. And the Russian officials are claiming that they destroyed at least 2 of the HIMARS rocket launchers, and those HIMARS rocket launchers were used to strike the Russian barracks in Makiivka on the New Year's Eve. And the Russians also claim that they destroyed some Czech military vehicles and ammunition depot. So we have contradictory reports, but we cannot verify them at this stage. There were early reports about more Ukrainian casualties in Russian unofficial sources, but no confirmation of that so far.
These attacks in Makiivka still linger. How big is the backlash over them in Russia?
Well, it's too early to tell, but the anger is very big. So Russia is in rage, I would say, at least some parts of Russia and a Russian community that we can follow on the internet, in social media. People are very angry with Russian commanders who decided to deploy those mobilized in that building to celebrate. And there were similar cases in the past with dozens of Russian soldiers reportedly killed and confirmed by the Russian authorities that they were killed there. At this moment, it is too early to tell, as I've just said, how huge an impact would that be. But we know that of those hundreds of thousands Russians mobilized during the recent months to fight in Ukraine, many of them were not eager to go to war. And now they have 1 ground less to go to this war and to join the Russian army there.
Criticism against or about the Russian military leadership has been brewing for quite some time, and it's just grown louder after this most devastating attack against the Russian troops that we know of, at least so far. How dangerous could this become for Putin's war and his military operation, his special military operation, as he continues to call it?
It is dangerous in the longer term, I would say. The Russian military leadership, the defense minister, Mr. Shoigu, was criticized several times before for the failures of the Russian army, the inability of the Russian army to attack Kiev at the beginning, and they had to withdraw from the north, they had to withdraw from the south, they lost regions like Kharkiv or Kherson. So now and again we hear criticism of Mr. Shoigu, but Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, is a very close friend of Mr. Shoigu, so I don't think that he will be held responsible for this attack. But on the other hand, on the maybe lower level, we can maybe see some changes in the Russian officers. And a lot of Russians are now demanding what they call retaliation. And in the past, we've seen when such attacks happened, and then Russia attacked Ukrainian targets and called it retaliation. So the rage subsided. So things calmed down. I think it could be this time as well. And Ukrainians are expecting a major attack from Russia anytime soon.
As always, a situation to watch. Thank you so much, DW correspondent Roman Goncharenko, joining us tonight from Kyiv.
Now, Russia's drone and missile strikes on civilian targets come alongside bitter trench warfare on the front lines. Russia has focused for months on taking Bakhmut in the eastern Donbass region. The city has seen some of the most intense fighting of the war. Much is trench warfare and the front rarely moves. Shelling is causing heavy losses on both sides as soldiers are pinned down in known locations. DW's Max Sander joined a medical evacuation team saving lives on the Eastern Front.
Cheating death at high speed. When taking the injured from Ukrainian front lines, every second counts.
Tell me when you put your foot down, Andriy. I'm flying around back here.
They call her Kocha. It means little one. She isn't tall, but few can match her combat medic experience. She's working on a soldier whose vehicle was involved in an explosion.
Was this a ricochet?
No, we hit a mine. The driver threw me to the left, and I saw everything. He was thrown over the top. I had earplugs in and a helmet on. I hit my head, and I got hit in the chest.
The soldier will most likely fully recover. His driver is dead.
So we have some other things to take care of. Do you have children?
2.
So there must be 3 more.
He might be in an ambulance on the way to hospital, but his mind is still on the front.
Everyone thought that we would break, but in fact we stand and will continue to stand. All these raids, it only angers us more and makes everyone stronger.
It's been a grim day.
Today is a very difficult day. The enemy, the Russian aggressor, will not calm down. He sees the advantages on our side and fights harder and harder. However, I'm desperate because today, unfortunately, we had 20 but lost 3.
Finding the strength to face what is coming out of the Bakhmut area. For some of the Hospitallers, voluntary combat medics, faith is part of the answer. Krocha converted to Islam while working with Muslim volunteers in the field after hostilities began in 2014. She says she only fears God, but the job takes its toll.
What I have seen includes deaths and severed limbs, opened heads and stomachs. I put a barrier in front of me, so to speak. He is wounded, I work with him. And if I give up, how will that help him? So I hold on. I have 2 nephews at home. When I'm exhausted here, barely on my feet, and then I have a rotation, I go home, and seeing these nephews and other children fixes everything that can be fixed.
She has to return to the front, even though it's been quiet for a few days. Rain and low cloud have created poor conditions for artillery and drones. But in the distance, cannon fire. The weather has changed, and the next evacuation call may just be moments away.